Hey guys, if you're enjoying the content that I'm making, please click that subscribe button. Also remember to click that bell button and make sure to tick that box to send all notifications so you don't miss out on any videos. With that in mind, let's get on with the video. What's up guys, welcome to Munchkins Gaming, where we take your gaming to the next level. This is Munchkins logging in to bring you another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video. And in this video we are going to be taking down Golbez's EX fight, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So without further ado, let's get on with this video. So, of course, we are going to be starting off with the weaknesses, resistances, and abilities of the Flawless, which is a bahamut type monster. So for its weakness, it is weak to ice and the dark element. As for its resistance, it's resistance to holy elements. As for its abilities, it has access to Flare, which is a magic brave attack, Dive, which is his melee HP attack, Scintillating Slash, which is a holy melee brave attack, which also removes the target's buffs, and all the buffs without frames anyway. Next is Holy Sword Art, which recovers itself from its break status, and basically a melee brave attack plus HP attack, and this also removes all debuffs without frames on the boss. Next up is Homing Ray, which basically increases its brave first and then unleashes a group magic brave attack, and this also has a increased turn rate when it's inflicting a break or attacking a target that is inflicted with break. Next up is Bright Ray, which again increases its brave and then unleashes a group magic brave attack plus an HP attack. Next, it has Angelic Aurora. I can't really pronounce this. Aureal? I think that's how you say it. It's basically a group magic brave attack and removes the target's boss without frames. And this also increases its brave afterwards and grants itself a max brave up buff. And this also has a low turn rate. And finally, it has Kuraga, which basically restores its HP and raises attacks, defense, max brave, and speed. And he will only use this once when it dies the first time around. Alright, so now that we know the weaknesses, the resistances, and the abilities of the Flawless, it's now time to take a look at some general tips and guides. And the first one is to save about 70% of your abilities for the last boss. Honestly, I think 70% is around the safe spot because the boss actually has quite a bit of HP, plus it does revive itself, well, sort of. I guess it cures itself to max HP with its Kuraga ability. Next is to bring in the boosted characters such as Golbez, Laguna, Seven, and of course Kefka. Seeing this is now the time where there are actually 4 synergy characters or boosted characters, any of the 4, I was about to say 3, any of these 4 are actually gonna have increased stats, so you might as well bring them if you have their weapons and of course if you have built them up. For other characters that you may want to consider, the first one that I'm going to suggest is obviously going to be Quistis. Now Quistis is, I guess, sort of part of a new meta right now, which is delay. Next up I have Beatrix, then you have Lael, Ramza. Now I added Kuja here, but there is a small caveat that his Ring Holy is actually a holy element attack. So you may want to use this on the earlier phases or earlier waves and then just save all your ultima for the last boss. Next is Thancred, and then you have Agrius, and I have Vaughn here, and again Vaughn has a small caveat, which is the luminescence is actually a holy element, so the boss will have resistance to that. However, he does apply a blind debuff plus the defense down debuff, so it's sort of like, you know, it can come in quite clutch for you. Next is Bart's, of course, a great Brave Battery DPS. Cater I put in there because she can have that evade ability, you know, I'm sorry, evade buff with her abilities, and you know, you can sort of dodge like the AoE attack, or there's a chance you can. And then I have Dark Knight Cecil, of course, because of his dark element. Got Ace, Deuce, Rosa is here for the revive, Setzer for freeze, Snow a good tank, plus he uses ice elements, and then we have Lilith. Next up is going to be your healers plus Brave Battery options. In this case, you have Rem, Selfie, Maria, Aiko, and Kate Sith. So any one of those is going to be helpful for healing purposes. And finally, for the summon, of course, Ifrit is going to be there. He is the only summon that we can level to 30 at this point, plus the extra advantage of more attack is definitely going to be useful for your team. But of course, you can still use Shiva because of the weakness of the boss for ice, and you have Diabolus there as well. Alright, so now that we have the general tips out of the way, let's get through some tips for the fight itself. Now for the support, I do suggest bringing Golbez, Kefka, or Quistis depending on your team. If you don't have Kefka build up, bring a Kefka friend because that Trine ability is going to be saving your life. If you do have Kefka in your team, then you can either bring Quistis or Golbez. Golbez more for the DPS, and of course Quistis to delay. The next tip I have for you guys is to inform you that once you kill the boss for the first time around, it will use that angelic Orail. I still don't know how to say that word. I think it's Orail. So you may have to either top up your Brave or apply that HP damage debuff that Kefka has with his Trine ability. And just a couple of things to note: if you are going to kill it while you have your summon up, just to let you guys know that it will still use this ability once the summon is finished. I do believe once you use your next ability or skill, or whatever the case, your next move, it will still use it even though it isn't its turn at that time. So just be careful with that. The next one is, of course, the summon itself. Now again, you either use it when you're about to kill it for the first time and after it revives. This basically ensures you are safe in a way from getting killed straight away. So you do have that one move if you summon during when you kill it, and of course if you manage to survive the AoE attack, then you can use your summon to sort of recover yourself from either the massive damage, or someone dies, then you can revive them. And so my final tip for this fight is actually to keep reapplying those buffs and reapplying those debuffs on the boss. So basically the boss has a lot of abilities, well, quite a few abilities that actually removes his debuffs and remove your buffs as well. So making sure you're on top of this is quite essential so you don't get broken too easily, and vice versa. Makes it easier for you to break the boss. And I suppose to bring a good Brave Battery as well, and this sort of avoids you from getting broken. And I think that is the main issue with this boss. If you get broken by the angelic rail, it's pretty much sort of guaranteed that one of your characters will die, especially if all of them gets broken. So just be careful with that. Alright, so now that we have the general tips and the general guide out, let's take a look at some possible party compositions. Now the first one is going to be a mix between Golbez, Kefka, Seven, and Laguna. And for the support, it's either gonna be a Golbez or Kefka, and of course you can still put Quistis there if you really want to. For the summon, basically it's going to be Ifrit. Now, your choice with your support is going to depend on your team. I would suggest that either swap out Kefka or Laguna, because they are both like a debuffer in a way, so having both of them there isn't exactly optimal. So if you have Kefka on, you can leave out Laguna. If you have Laguna, you can sort of leave Kefka out. But again, Kefka has that Trine ability, which basically has the HP damage debuff, so the boss can't use their HP attack. Plus it inflicts blind as well, so you know it can come in clutch. So Kefka is probably the better choice as a debuffer between Kefka and Laguna. Next up is Golbez, Rosa, and Quistis with a Quistis support. Now this is the next couple of teams are basically going to be a variation of Quistis because she is sort of the new meta in a way right now, where it's delay. So you know, for your support you're gonna have Quistis as well, and for the summon it's Ifrit. I mean, unfortunately, the way it's constructed, Quistis actually makes it a lot easier for you to clear all these fights. The next one again is Quistis and Bartz and Lael. Now this is quite an interesting combination. This is a chase team with the delay there inserted as well. Of course you have Quistis as your support, and for your summon you either have Ifrit or Pandemonium. Now this combination is, I think, the most interesting one, because it mixes both the chase and the delay, which makes this a very OP team, and I do believe you'll be able to clear a lot of content with this team, even if you don't have, like, you know, the strongest characters for that banner or for that fight, that EX. I think this team will help you carry through if you do have these characters built up. And so for the final team I have here is going to be Kefka, Agrius, and Bartz. So this is a little bit more aggressive in a way, because you have Bartz, which is again a very good Brave Battery slash DPS, and including Agrius, again a Brave Battery and a DPS at the same time. And of course Kefka is your debuffer with the Ifrit support, and for the Quistis support, and for the summon is Ifrit. I just feel like this team is interesting as well. It's more aggressive in a way. You do have the option for Agrius to actually paralyze the boss. That means you can avoid some of the abilities that it will launch at you. And then you have Kefka as well, with the debuff to avoid the HP damage. So you've got pretty much like two characters that pretty much blocks the boss's abilities, and for the most part he does have quite a lot of magic brave attacks. So if you see the all attack, in a way it's going to be a magic brave attack, and if you have Agrius's EX, this will basically, you can silence that attack, and that way it will, you know, leave you alone for a turn. So it's I think this is quite an interesting team. You do have to pay attention, but I think it is quite doable. And so we have come to the end of this video. Again, I'll give you guys my final thoughts in the fight. Now, honestly, I didn't have any problems with this fight. I did get Golbez, and I did manage to get his EX weapon eventually after 5 multis and I'd say about like 60 or 70 tickets, which is quite nice. Of course, having Golbez here actually make this fight a lot easier because of his darkness, you know, element, and the boss is weak to that, and he does quite a lot of damage. So having Golbez actually made this a lot easier for me. But in saying that, if you have Quistis and a Quistis support, you shouldn't have much problem with this fight as well. Now, the only thing that you really have to be careful of is, of course, the one I mentioned before, where you kill it for the first time. It uses Kuraga, and then it will use Angelic or Rail. So that is probably the only thing that I really want to emphasize to you guys, is to make sure you avoid that, and or make sure you know your Brave is topped up, or at least one of your characters, that, and then you can sort of re-break the boss, and then you should be safe. If you have Kefka's EX here as well, it'll make things a lot easier as well. Unfortunately, I didn't get that. I may kind of try for it again, but I'm not holding my breath in actually getting it. I actually wanted it as well. I really like the villains in this game, so unfortunately I didn't get that. I'm gonna have to try for Sephiroth when it comes out. And who else? I think I want to try for Renoa. I want to try for Lena. So a lot of good characters coming soon, so hopefully I would have enough gems for all of them. But I'm getting off track. I suppose if I compare this to other EXs, I would still say probably the Quistis one, or sorry, the Quistis Lost Chapter, is a lot. This one's a little bit harder than that. And then if I compare it to Rosa's EX, I honestly felt like Rosa's EX would probably be a little bit more harder in a way, because of you're dealing with two of them, and they can like hit you and then kill you. But I suppose it's the same sort of mechanic in a way, but I suppose they're about the same. I just have to be neutral. But I did find just a tiny bit the Rosa one was harder, because I didn't get Rosa's EX, or never got any of her weapons, so I didn't have auto revive that can save me if I made a mistake. So but now Rosa's here. If you have Rosa here, you can definitely use her as well. Anyway, I think I'm blathering on. I suppose I'd like to ask you guys, which one do you think was harder? Was this one harder, or was Rosa's EX harder? Leave it down in the comments below and let me know your opinion. And also remember to click like, subscribe, and share this video if you find it helpful at all. And as always, I'd like to hear from you guys. Again, which team did you use? And the more interesting team, the better. Leave it down in the comments below. I always try and read all the comments down, even though there's just a few of you that are leaving the comments down nowadays, because I think the level 60 era is sort of made things a little bit easier for everyone else, and a lot of the harder contents are not actually hard anymore. Aren't really harder content anymore at this point, or I suppose they are hard, but they are made easier with the level 60 characters. Anyway, I think that's it for me. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at Munchkins Gaming, and of course you can add me as a friend on Facebook. Then you can leave me a private message there as well if you like, at Munchkins Gaming. This is Munchkins logging off, and I'll see you guys in the next level.